G'day everyone, Daniel Anderson here. Now in this deep dive, we are going to be tackling the topic of crawled properties and managed properties and why it's a good idea and a good foundation for you to understand what crawled properties are and the importance also of managed properties, especially in the context of SharePoint search. So managed properties are your friend when we're talking about creating and finding information or creating experiences or search experiences where it allows your users to be able to search and refine and really find the information that they're looking for. Managed properties are your friend. So crawl properties are automatically generated when SharePoint crawls your content. It extracts this metadata and creates what we call crawl properties. Now, what we need to do is map these crawled properties to managed properties, and that will allow us to be able to use these managed properties as searchable properties, as refinable properties. They can be used in queries and display templates, and we're going to take a look at all of that right now. So we can see on the screen here that I'm just in a SharePoint communication site, and I'm going to use the site pages library and add some content or add a column to our site pages library. And the column we're going to add is we want to use what we call, let's say it's a must read column. So when I create a news article, I want to select whether this shows up and has a little label on a display template that we'll show in a minute that it is a must read article. Or we could use that in a refiner's web part also. So I'm going to go into site pages. Now, as we know, we've got the default metadata that happens or that is available to us on our site pages library. Now, I'm just going to save this, set this view as the default like that. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a column. So I'm going to add a choice column, and I'm going to call this choice column must read. Okay, so we'll say must read, and the choices are going to be no and yes. All right, so we'll go no and yes. The default will set to no, and we'll hit save. So now what we've done is we've added a column to this library. Now, when we go, and what I'm going to do, I'll just edit these properties here. The first, to make this this column crawled, or to get SharePoint to crawl this content, we're going to change the value. All right, so now what we're doing is we're changing the value. It's going to, when SharePoint indexes content, it's going to pick up this new column and it's going to create what we call a crawled property. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a site page. All right, so I'll just create a nice page here. Let's call this crawled properties deep dive. All right, so there we go. We've got our title, and I'm just going to go to my page details, and that will open up the details of this page on the right hand side. And we can see that we've got our column that we've added to our pages library, and I can say, yep, this is a must read article, and I'm going to publish that. So again, that's just creating some content. It's making sure that SharePoint is going to pick up this new content. It's going to index, it's going to pick up that column, and it will create a crawled property for us. Now, once this is done, to be able to use that must read column and the values, we need to map that crawled property to what we call a managed property. Now, for that, we need to go into our SharePoint Admin Center. So here I'm in my SharePoint Admin Center. I'm going to go under More Features, and we need to head into our search schema. So here I'm going to jump into Manage Search Schema, and we're going to use some spare managed properties that Microsoft do provide us called a refinable string property. All right. So once the search schema loads, we're going to be able to then find our refinable string, and then we're going to map this must read column to our managed property. So you can see that I've got managed properties and crawled properties. I'm going to jump into managed properties. I'm going to find refinable string. Now, that's going to bring up a lot of different refinable strings, and they're all blank. So they're all open and they're ready for us to map our crawled properties to our managed properties. Okay, so you can see here I've got a spare one. I've got a few 0, 1, 2, and 3 I've already got mapped. All right, now I've already pre-done this, so I've already gone and mapped the must-read column because it does take a little bit of time for things to index and everything like that. So just to speed things up, I've already gone and mapped that. But the process is you find a managed property like refinable string 04. You can see that we've got the type and we've got what it is. It's queryable, it's retrievable, it's refinable. So everything that we need to use in search, this is already all set. Now, if we scroll all the way down the bottom, you can see that I can add a mapping. Now, this is where we go and find our crawled property that has now been indexed by SharePoint. We've created it. So let's go and look for must read is the column name. And what we should see is the crawled property here of must read. And you can see it's prefixed with OWS underscore must read. We'll click OK. And now, after a little bit of time, again, we're going to need SharePoint to index and update and do all the things behind the scenes. But now we've mapped our must-read crawled property to a managed property. That managed property was refinable string 04, and that's the property that we can now use in our search experiences. So if we turn our attention now to some search experiences, right? So again, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to manage properties now. I'm going to use the refinable string that I have already mapped because it's already got some values. So we can see here, I've got refinable string 00. So if I go into, let's say, into this search, right? And let's have a look. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to jump into the site content. So I'll go to the site pages of this library, of this site here, and we can see that we've got must read and we've got yes. All right. So if I go to refinable string 00 and say yes, what we'll see here is all of our pages that have been marked as must read to yes appear in our search because we've mapped that crawled property to this managed property of refinable string. All right. So we can start to use that in our search queries. But before we jump into our display templates and the PnP search web parts, we're going to take a look at an out-of-the-box web part called the highlighted content web part and see how we can use that managed property that we just mapped in our highlighted content. So you can see that I'm on this page. I'm just going to jump into edit mode here. I'll add a web part. Now the web part that we're going to use is the highlighted content web part. So that's now been added to the page. So if we jump into the properties here, and I'm going to choose all sites. Now the type here, I'm going to choose all. We could narrow this scope down to just pages as well. Now what we can do down here under filter is we can select manage property. Now in this manage property, we can then go refinable string. And what we'll find here is we can choose refinable string 00. All right. Now you can see the other refinable strings there as well. That's because I've got some other crawled properties mapped to those as well. So if I go refinable string equals yes, then what we'll see is a dynamic view of any page that has got that must read flag set to yes. I can do the same thing as no. If there are any that have been set to no, then they are going to appear there. So as we can see, managed properties really can augment and really help you in pick and choose and display through the highlighted content web part what information gets shown in that particular web part. Now let's move on to a little bit more of an advanced search experience or search functionality here, where we're going to look at the PnP search web parts and how we can use managed properties in the display templates that are from the results source or the results that come back into those PnP templates. Now, what the other thing that we can do is our display template. So when we're using something like the P&P search web parts, so if I jump back onto this site here, and I'll go to my search templates here. I've got a customized template here that I'm using for this particular purpose. So you can see here that I've got these cards and I've got these little labels here that say must read. Now, if you want to have a look at these templates, if you head over to SharePoint search templates.com, I've got these available for you as well. So how do we use this now? So I'm going to create a new page, all right? So I'll create a new page, we'll go blank, and we'll hit create page. Now I've already gone ahead, this tenant has already got the P&P search web parts added to it. So we'll go and we'll add, and we'll go to SharePoint page, and let's just take everything else out, and we'll just go to promoted state number 2. And there we've got our news templates, all right, or our news articles coming in. Now, we can't customize this. So what I've got is a template that allows us to use that managed property now and display it in a different way. So the P&P search web parts, what that allows us to do is have a custom template. So I'm going to scroll across here. Now, instead of cards, I'm going to use custom. All right. Now I've got a custom template that's sitting in a library, and I'll paste in the use an external template URL. Now you can see here that it changes the display because it's customized, but I'm missing a few things, and I'm missing a few slots here. Okay, so the slots I'm missing are these ones here. So I need to go ahead and map these slots now. All right, so if I go back to the first blade and I'll go to customize my slots, I am going to go to the bottom of this and I'm going to add these. Okay, so I'm just going to add these and also the properties that we need. And the must read one is one of these slots. Now, remembering it's mapped to the must read, we're using refinable string 00. Okay, so that we pop that in there. Now I'm just going to jump in here. I'll just quickly enter all these so that they display properly. So these are all of our properties that are being used in this template. So I'll go last, I've got 2 more. So I'll go created, and I'll go created, and I'll go, the last one I've got is pill, and that is going to be the title of the site that the news article comes from. So we'll now hit add and save. So you can see it's starting to take shape, all right? But what we don't have is that is the must read. So there's just one more little bit of thing that we need to do here in our properties. So I'm just going to go to selected properties, because to use that managed property of refinable string, that's the one that we mapped our crawled property to. We created the must read in the site pages library, and we mapped that directly to our refinable string. So I'm going to find the property here called refinable string, and I'm going to make sure that we include that property in our search. All right, so in the things that come back. Now, once I've selected that, you can see that I've now got a must read little label there that is now part of my news cards. Okay, so I'm just going to, let me just grab a title here. Crawl props to manage props, and we'll hit publish. And now what we've got is a nice customized search experience using that managed property of must read. And it's a nice little, in this case, it's a nice little visual indicator of our must read articles here, or things that are important. So having an understanding of crawled properties versus managed properties, and why and how and what the power is, and how we would use managed properties to enhance those experiences is really, really important. Okay, so especially when we're talking about search and creating these search experiences. So I hope that brings you some value today. Thanks for watching this deep dive, and I'll see you in the next one.